The basketball teams have 2 busy weeks.
And the Division II ice hockey team faces the top team in the region.
This is All Access, and it starts right now. Welcome to All Access, the show that today will be as heated as the NFL playoff races. I'm Cody Decker.
And I'm Derek Hill. We have 2 weeks of action to cover, so let's get right into the latest from the women's basketball team. Cody?
Thanks, Derek. The women's basketball team hosted the Grove City Wolverines on the 17th for their second game of the season. After starting off the game slow, trailing 25-12 at the end of the first quarter, they took the lead before halftime with a score of 34-30. Senior guard Summer Crowley led the Profs in the first half with 12 points and a block. The defense held the Wolverines to just 5 points in the second quarter. The second half was tightly contested, but the Profs' defense held strong behind Dominique Peters and Caitlin Seitzma's 2 steals each. The Profs came away with a 77-69 victory to improve their record to 2-0.
The women's basketball team traveled to York College to take on the Spartans in a tough matchup. The Profs stayed in the game throughout the first half. The team shot well from the field, but couldn't get around the turnover bug. Their 9 turnovers in the first half kept them from taking the lead, and it didn't help them in the second half. The team gave up 16 turnovers in the second half, totaling 25 for the game. They also only shot 29% on the stingy Spartans defense. The Profs fell to the Spartans 96-67, giving the team their first loss of the young season.
The women's basketball team lost to visiting Stockton University last Tuesday night by a final score of 70-64. The game was as close as Rowan outscored Stockton 24-7 in the third quarter and tied the score at 48 before the Ospreys pulled away in the fourth quarter to preserve the win. April Zimzik recorded career marks with 21 points and 11 rebounds. Dominique Peters and Alex Raring scored 11 points and 10 points respectively, while forward Caitlin Seitzma grabbed 8 rebounds. The Profs would enjoy Thanksgiving before their next game against Albright College on Monday.
The women's basketball team dropped a non-conference game against visiting Albright College on Monday night. The Profs had their lowest scoring game of the season to date in the 73-62 loss. Rowan center April Zimzik had a game-high 17 points and added 8 rebounds. Guard and forward Alex Raring totaled 14 points. Guard Dominique Peters and forward Taylor Gardner contributed with 8 points apiece. The Profs fell to 2-3 as they headed into a home game against Rutgers Camden on Wednesday night.
And on that Wednesday night, the women's basketball team taking on Rutgers Camden, where they pulled out a big win, 77-66. Dominique Peters had an impressive night for Rowan, ending with 20 points on 8 of 14 shooting from the field. Peters also made all 4 of her free throws as well. April Zimzik also had a great game with 18 points on 7 of 9 shooting from the field and playing a team-high 33 minutes. The Profs struggled from 3, only making 4 on 23 attempts, but made up for it at the free throw line where they converted 17 of their 19 attempts. This win put the Profs back at the 500 mark at 3-3, with their next game coming up this Saturday against William Patterson. Tip-off is at 1 p.m.
Now for a look into the world of pro sports. Here's Chris Devine with this week's Pro Talk.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's edition of Pro Talk. I'm your host Chris Devine and I hope everybody enjoyed their Thanksgiving break. I'm sure most of you were enjoying your turkey and stuffing with some pigskin action, so let's get right to it. There was so much that went down during Week 12 of the NFL season. On Thanksgiving, the Cowboys were blown out by the Chargers, and the Vikings showed that they are determined to grab a hold of a first-round bye in the NFC playoffs. The Eagles became the first team in the league to win 10 games, and we continue to march closer to the one-year anniversary of when the Cleveland Browns last won a game. But the biggest story of the week was the brawl that took place during the Broncos-Raiders game. Michael Crabtree and Aqib Talib got into a scuffle following a play, and bedlam broke loose on the sidelines with punches being thrown everywhere, which was fitting for this AFC West rivalry. Both Crabtree and Talib have been suspended 2 games without pay, although both players are appealing their suspensions. Now, while Denver is falling out of the race, the Raiders cannot afford to lose a player like Crabtree, as they are still in the hunt for the AFC Western Division title. To the diamond now, as the man people are calling the Babe Ruth of Japanese baseball is at the top of the MLB free agent market this offseason. Shohei Ohtani is a 23-year-old 6'5" pitcher who throws 100 miles an hour with regularity. Now, in 2016, Ohtani went 10-4 with a 1.86 ERA, but not only can he pitch, he can hit as well. He hit .324 with 30 home runs in 525 at-bats. Needless to say, a National League team will be favored to land the top prospect, but he could also serve as a pretty good DH in the American League. Getting a player like Ohtani is not going to be easy, though. An MLB team would have to pay a $20 million posting fee just to open up availability to negotiate a contract with him. His agent said he wants to go to a team that will help ease his transition from Japan to the U.S., so cities like Seattle, Los Angeles, and New York are some places that come to mind when you think about significant Japanese populations, as well as success with Japanese players. It's not even Christmas yet, and the stove is already starting to heat up. And finally, some unfortunate news from the squared circle, as former NXT champion Drew McIntyre tore his bicep during his match against Andrade Cien Almas at TakeOver War Games just a few weeks ago. McIntyre was seen favoring his left arm during the match. He ended up losing the contest, and whether or not it was the scripted ending or if the injury caused an on-the-spot change of plans, Cien Almas is a rising hot talent that the fans are starting to grab onto. Since he was a former member of the Los Ingobernables faction in Mexico, which is a stable that is now thriving over in New Japan Pro Wrestling, which has quickly become WWE's rival. We'll see where the future of NXT and WWE as a whole goes from here, but nonetheless, best wishes to Drew McIntyre for a quick and speedy recovery. That's all I have for you on this week's Pro Talk. Coming up, Cody and Derek will have the latest on the men's basketball team. But coming up after the break, Eric hosts this week's Pro Sports Roundtable, so stay tuned for more All Access.
Welcome back to All Access. It's time for our Rowan Roundtable. Joining me today are Thomas DiNapoli and Matt Cass to discuss topics in pro sports. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Glad to be here.
All right, so I see you're wearing some hockey gear.
I am.
We're actually going to be talking about hockey. So you're going to you're in for a good segment, trust me.
Good
All right, so you guys ready for the first topic?
Yeah.
Okay, so many of us woke up these past couple days, maybe we've been on Twitter, maybe we've been doing whatever, and we've noticed that the number one trend is probably one of them has been Eli Manning being
All right,
benched.
no. Let me. I'm going to cut you off right there.
Okay.
It is not probably. It is the absolute number one trend in pro sports, and it is a shame that a model organization. When you think the NFL, you think of the Patriots, you think of the Cowboys, you think of the Steelers, and you think of the Giants. Top four franchises, and maybe Dan Snyder would love you to think it's the Redskins, but it's not. And to have someone for 14 years, the last time Eli Manning was not in a game. Kurt Warner was with the Giants, pre-Super Bowl Kurt Warner with the Cardinals. Regardless, for him to go on the bench like this and for Geno Smith and Davis Webb to play is absolutely atrocious. It is terrible. Jerry Reese cannot draft. If he's drafting Davis Webb and he's not ready right now, there's absolutely no reason to have drafted him. This is the second quarterback they drafted Nassib to that they're not going to play. I get it. The tank may be on, but McAdoo's got to go. Reese has to go. This needs to be a complete overhaul because there's no – I understand you might want to suck for Sam, but it's a terrible way to let your two-time Super Bowl quarterback get benched like that. I don't care. You get your get-out-of-jail-free card for being well when you win 2 Super Bowls with the team.
I love how I didn't even finish the question yet, and you just right
You
on
didn't
it.
need to.
So I'm guessing you're a Giants fan.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Passionate about the
of
topic.
course, yes, of course.
If I could just jump in and offer a counterpoint to that, my two biggest issues with the Manning benching was, one, they didn't let him go to Jacksonville in a trade before the trade deadline because it's pretty clear Jacksonville is one of his top destinations with Tom Coughlin being in the front office there.
Right.
Two, they sent out Ben McAdoo to make this announcement. For a guy like Eli Manning, who's inarguably one of the top 4 players, like a Mount Rushmore situation with this Giants franchise, you got to have one of the Maras or one of the Tishes come out and do this. You can't have a guy who's
Not even
currently...
Tish. I would have one of the Maras. Tish.
Probably.
Yeah,
Mary.
you got to have one of the owners come out and own this decision instead of the coach that's currently guided them to a 2-9 record. Other than that, as sentimental as I am, I love Eli. He's been my quarterback for as long as I can remember. Players reach the end of their careers. Joe Montana went to Kansas City, right?
I'm not saying he can't go to another team because I think after this year with their draft pick, they were going to cut him anyway. He's going to go to Denver or he's going to go to Jacksonville. That's no secret. But the way they did it, and for this glorified gym teacher who we have to call a head coach in Ben McAdoo, come out and say this. He's this offensive genius, but the team can't score 20 points. And it's because of Eli. Name me one time that Ben McAdoo has ever said anything about Odell Beckham Jr. Zero. He's legitimately scared of Odell Beckham Jr. You know, Ben McAdoo can't even talk to players during games. He writes them on his little sticky notes, and he gives them to players because he can't even address them. But he goes after the face of the organization and the class act in Eli every single game and benches him. He's a clown.
Now, but hear me out here. This Odell Beckham Jr. thing that you're bringing up, that's not just a Ben McAdoo situation. During the Carolina game where he and Josh Norman fought like 3 to 5
I was at
times.
that game. Coughlin should have benched him too, but
Yeah, that's not just the. It's gone back to the tail end of the Coughlin era for not dealing with the situation as it arose. Beckham Jr. is not a bad player. He just has a hard time kind of finding his way in the New York media market, which is filled with a lot of like pitfalls and traps for a player of his caliber. And the thing is, I don't think it's fair placing all the blame on Ben McAdoo.
I think it is.
This is an organization that has sat back on its 2 Super Bowls, and I think the time is now for change, as uncomfortable as that might be.
McAdoo and Reese got to
Well,
go.
all right, so we're going to switch a little bit of gears and go into some more NFL news. That was actually a really good debate. So a lot of people know that Josh Gordon from the Cleveland Browns was just activated this past week, and it was announced actually today that Hugh Jackson plans to start him this Sunday against the Chargers. So when Josh Gordon takes the field for the first time since, what I believe is 2014,
Yes.
what do you think we're going to expect from the 2013 receiving yards leader?
Well, it's hard because he hasn't played since 2014. If I'm Hugh Jackson, I'm starting him too because, you know, they haven't won a game yet. You got to try to find something. There's 5 games left in the year. I think he's going to have 2 good games, 2 bad games, and 1 average game. That's just me personally. He hasn't seen the field. He's a great talent, but also who's throwing him the ball? You know,
Deshaun Kaiser, right?
Kaiser, you know, it's you wish the best for him. I hate to say this. I think I got to verse him in the fantasy playoffs if I get there. So I'm hoping he kind of just does a mediocre thing. Also, besides that, how much coverage are they going to put on him? Kenny Britt's done nothing. So, you know, it's the Browns. You only have so high of a ceiling with this team right now.
I think Josh Gordon, when he does get back on that field, is going to show flashes of his former game.
Yeah.
The problem for Josh Gordon is he hasn't seen an NFL field since you said it, 2013, 2014, around that time. And as much training as you can get, as many reps as you can put in a weight room, in a gym, there's a certain level of speed that you need to readjust to at the NFL level. I've heard it described as, especially, you know, for somebody in the backfield like a quarterback, running back, even a wide receiver, you have the tide coming in at you. You have this wave coming in at you constantly.
How's he going to take that first hit?
Oh,
Think about the first safety coming
true.
across the middle too. Because Gordon, let's be honest here. I'm not saying he's a possession guy. I'm not saying he's a big play guy. He's a little bit of both. But you know, especially if they're going to run more of a West Coast style, he's going to be the guy on those shallow crosses. And you're going to have that linebacker, especially if it's cover 2, just sitting there waiting for him.
Yeah, it should be interesting,
Yeah,
I
so
think.
he gets Austin Collied a couple times, and that's not
Jeez.
great. But, you know, he's been out of the league, and if that's the way they choose to play him, he has decided he wants to put himself back in those high danger situations because he wants to be there. And that's his decision, and we
Right.
really don't have any right to comment on that one way or another.
Pretty cool. All right, pretty cool debate. So now we're actually going to take things out of the NFL right now. We're going to switch over to baseball. So it's the off season. There's trades being made. There's free agents being signed. One of them that has been the big talk is bringing Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher from Japan, to the United States. What teams do you think? Do you fellas think is going to possibly be the best team to be in the running for him?
Do you mind if I take the lead on this one first?
Go ahead, Cass.
All right. Well, I'm a little biased, so I do always think my Yankees are in the running for big players. Look, I know they've been frugal. I know they've been, you know, tightening the belt a little bit, but if need be, they still have the space necessary in their budget to sign a player like Ohtani.
As a pitcher or an outfielder?
Could be
Actually,
both.
no, he could play both.
He could play both. It does depend.
I don't think there's any room for. Where are you going to put him in the outfield?
I mean,
Maybe you could DH him.
you could, but at the same time, do you play him in Brett Gardner's spot maybe if he's in the outfield?
See, I don't know about that. Personally, I think he's going to stay on the West Coast. The Angels, the Mariners, the Dodgers are always in it too. I would love to see the Mets get him, but of course he would come to the Mets and his career would become the Mets. And so there's a part of me that doesn't want him. He's only 23. I think he would do great in a National League setting because he could pitch and then he could hit, which we know he has done well in Japan. So with the pitcher still being able to hit, I think he would be better suited in the National League. I would love to see the Mets, but watch him go to the Mariners.
It's going to be pretty interesting, I think, to see what's going to happen. So that's a pretty good debate. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But now we're going to switch over now to hockey. So probably the biggest story, I think, maybe in hockey right now is these red-hot Vegas Golden Knights, their very first season as an NHL team. It's crazy. They come together out of nowhere, just, come together for their first season. What's been the biggest deciding factor in how these guys have had so much success their first season playing together?
Is the expansion draft an option? You get guys like Neil and you get Perron on your team, and you're an expansion team, and they're in their top 4 scorers. Marc-Andre Fleury isn't even their best goaltender right now. He's only played, 4 or 5 games? So they definitely benefited from that. I think a good job by the NHL to not have a team just come in and be completely awful, have that expansion draft. But you really got to be impressed with what you've seen so far. I hear T-Mobile Arena is really nice, too. It must be nice playing in a nice arena like that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm happy with the success of the Golden Knights, but I feel like the NHL, and Gary Bettman in particular, sort of cherry-picked another Sun Belt franchise, and they made sure that they'd come into the league by themselves, so they had the run of the entire league. If you're coming in like Minnesota did, like Atlanta did, as 2 teams, you have to kind of make some sacrifices. You're not picking the best available players, you're picking the best available players the other team hasn't gotten. I also think that conference, alignment aside, Quebec had a really strong proposal for a team with a really high caliber arena, and they were shut out of the bidding process. And I like the team. I like the Golden Knights. I think their success is sustainable past this season, but something about the way they were put together as sort of a Frankenstein franchise by the NFL with favorable conditions leaves me uneasy.
Well, the Bettman's just as tall as you too, Cass. You gotta love that, right?
So what you're saying is I'd see eye to eye with him if I were discussing things with him.
Yeah, and you could tell him that you shouldn't bring franchises back to where they already failed, because there's a reason that they failed.
That's great. Well, that was a great debate, guys. Thank you for joining us today on All Access. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. That is all the time we have on our Rowan Roundtable. I would like to thank Matt and Tom once again for being here. Cody and Derek, back to you.
Thanks, Eric. Time to slam dunk into some men's basketball recaps. Derek?
Thanks, Cody. The men's basketball team took on Albright University in their season opener. The Profs performed well in the first half, led by junior guard Ramon Wright, who came away with 2 blocks and 4 steals. The game at halftime was close at a score of 35-34 Albright. The second half was a completely different story, as Rowan was outscored 50-29. This was a result of Rowan only shooting 23.7% in the second half, as well as only making 1 of 16 three-pointers. Albright came away with their second win of the season as they defeated Rowan 85-63.
The men's basketball team went on to the road to take on the Susquehanna University Hawks. The first half was all offense for both teams as each side shot over 40% respectively. Jeff Haddock led the way for the Profs in the first half, scoring 15 points on his own, while Ryan Traub had 13 for the Hawks. After a tight-knit first half that ended with a 46-43 lead for the Profs, the team came out in the second half with an improved defense. They only gave up 29 points in the second half, as well as scoring 42 to nearly match their first half total. Rod DePergia came away with the stat line of the day for the Profs as his 23 points and 6 assists boosted the team to an 88-72 win. This is their first win of the season.
The men's basketball team held on by the skin of their teeth to preserve an 87-85 win over Stockton University last Tuesday night. The Ospreys scored 6 of the final 7 points of the game, but Rowan survived their first NJAC match of the season. The Profs led 86-79 with 2 minutes and 11 seconds remaining. Stockton began to chip away, but missed a final layup attempt at the buzzer, and Rowan celebrated the victory. Forward TJ Booth finished the game with a double-double, recording 17 points and 10 rebounds. The men would hang around on Saturday to play Newman University.
The men's basketball team won their third consecutive game on Saturday afternoon with a 109-97 victory over Newman University. The Profs had 6 players that scored in double figures. Guard Ramon Wright compiled a career-high 24 points while also recording 6 rebounds and 4 blocks. Forward TJ Booth improved his career mark with 20 points and grabbed 7 rebounds. Guard Nick DePersia contributed with 15 points, and guard Walter Harvey scored 14 points, while guard Rob DePersia and guard Deron Curry added 11 and 10 points respectively. Rob DePersia and Curry each dished out 6 assists. The men would face Rutgers Camden on Wednesday night.
The men's basketball team took on Rutgers Camden yesterday, with the Profs walking away with a convincing 93-68 victory. Rowan was led by TJ Booth, who finished the game with 16 points on 5 of 14 shooting from the field and 5 for 8 from the charity stripe. Walter Harvey and Austin Kearney each added 12 points for Rowan. After the first half, with Rowan up 17, it seemed like they would coast to the victory, which is exactly what they did. The Profs will take on William Patterson this Saturday. Tip-off is at 3 p.m.
After the break, Ayala will talk with 2 members of the men's basketball team, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to All Access. Time for this week's Prof Spotlight. Joining me are TJ Booth and Deron Curry of the men's basketball team. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So you guys are fresh off from winning against Rutgers. Tell me about that. And you guys are also on a 4-winning game streak. That must feel great.
Feels good, you know. Feels good to win always. You never want to lose. But yeah, we've been playing well lately, and I like it. The guy next to me been playing well too. So
No, this guy's been playing well. Double machine. He's been
Right,
doing his thing.
double-double, and then NJAC, player of the week, right?
something like that.
What has contributed to that success? Like a different practice, has head coach pushing you guys a little harder this season?
I just think we're playing together a lot more. You know, we're overall just having fun out there, and that's what really matters.
Yeah, definitely. Playing together, just becoming one. Like, it's still a learning process, but we're winning doing it, so it's kind of fun.
Right. So far, what are some highlights from those 4-game wins? Like maybe against that game against Stockton?
Got to be
You
Ramon.
guys really played well then.
Yeah, probably got to be Ramon's dunk. That's probably my favorite.
Right?
Probably my favorite all year, the dunk.
That boy can get up.
Yeah, definitely,
Oh.
definitely. That's my guy.
He skies and he effortlessly, and he just throws it down. I'm on the court like, whoa. You know, so.
It's always great to be supportive of your team. You guys have like great charisma and like the personality shows. You have a young team. I believe you guys lost 5 of your seniors.
Right.
And how has that affected? Did you guys, especially as captain, do you feel more pressured now that there's younger players?
No. I love all our guys, and I know they can do it. You know, they just step up and do what they got to do.
Are there any adjustments you guys made, like especially with the free throws? That has been an issue. We saw that a little bit yesterday. Can you talk about that?
We shoot a lot
You
more
guys
free throws
do.
in practice.
Mhm.
A lot more.
Yeah, coach talks about it like he implements it like it's the game plan now because we miss so many. Like he kind of like he told us in practice that he's like I'm not gonna lie, I don't like that. Like he's
Yeah.
like that was my biggest thing playing like free throws. So like now we have to be more serious in practice when it comes to like time to shoot free throws. But other than that, we're gonna nip it in the bud pretty soon.
So I believe the shooting range around 61%. What's the goal? 70, 75? Hopefully?
100, 99, however close you can get.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope to see that for later on in the games. Also, tell me about like the team charismas. Like, is there any like before the game, like
Yeah, I think
warm up
that.
stuff?
No, I think that's probably me. I'm the craziest when it comes to warm up. Like I gotta have my music. I gotta be loud. I gotta be out. Cause that's how I get myself going. Like, but a lot of guys are like different. Like we just, as long as we're all ready to play when that like clock goes off, that's what really matters. We all have our different styles, but coach just usually tell us get ready your way. Like he's never really like strenuous on how we do it, but as long as we just get the job done.
And I'm the opposite. I'm that
Yeah.
guy that's just like having fun a little before the
Going,
game,
yeah.
or likes to watch the girls' game, just relaxing,
Yeah.
just taking it easy and getting ready.
That's what you got to do. Last season, I believe that Ramapo and NJC were some tough competitors. Has a coach, determined any different way you want to approach them for the upcoming games?
As of right now, we take it one game at a time.
Right.
So we're not really thinking about the Ramapos and Jersey Cities. We're just thinking about the ULP that we have on Saturday.
Yeah, December 2nd. Do you think that's going to be an easy win? You guys did beat them last season.
Nothing's ever easy in the NBA. So you can't
Right,
underestimate
you don't want to
anybody.
be like, yeah, it's going to be easy
Never know
win.
what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Right.
So we got to come ready to play or we lose.
Will it be an ideal finish for the season, especially since this is your last year,
Ideal finish for me?
Yeah, why not?
Of course, everyone wants the national championship, wants the NJAC title, and that's what I want. That would be the ideal finish. If I could choose it, that's exactly what it would be. Going all the way and just having fun with my team.
Yeah, definitely. That's a journey that we all look forward to. Just basically, I can say our goal is right now is just being the best team we can be when it gets time to play. Like when it gets March and it's time to go to the tournament or even the playoffs, we just got to be ready. Right now it's just about getting to that point. So that's my goal.
Other than free throws, are there any specific areas you want to work on as well? I know you guys have a pretty strong offense.
Me making my layups with contact. I can't finish with contact. They tell me every day.
Yeah, I think I'm the opposite. I can make the layups with contact. It's just like the three-pointers, I guess, I don't know. They said you're the new three-pointer, so I'll give you that job.
Three-point shooter.
I'll just keep the contact layups. She'll make the threes.
Are we expecting any dunks this season? Can we see some bunnies?
From us?
Yeah, why not?
I'm old. I got to save my energy, save my knees. I just do the layups. It's still 2 points.
I might get 1 or 2 this year.
He said he might.
I mean, I tried the other day. I got
On
a
two
draw to
people.
foul, but yeah.
On two people? I was like,
I think I'm
whoa.
still feeling that though, and that was this weekend. I'm still feeling that one, so
You did say
I
you
gotta
were hurt.
chill out for a little bit. But maybe you get 1 or 2 out of me by the end of the year. Never know.
Yeah,
how I'm
you
feeling.
never know. Well, thank you guys. That is all the time we have. I'd like to thank TJ and Deron for coming. Cody and Derek, back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Ayala. Time to dive into the latest from the diving teams. Cody?
Thanks, Derek. On Friday, December 17th, the women's diving team traveled to Carnegie Mellon University for the CMU Invitational. On day one, Corinne Finkbinder took 6th place in the 1-meter dive with 352.75 points. Kelly McQuestion finished right behind her in the event with 295.4 points. The top finisher in the event was Bree Litwin from Allegheny College, who totaled 404.9 points.
On day 2 of the CMU Invitational, the women's team took a run at the 3-meter dive. Corinne Finkbinder pushed up to 5th place with 350.8 points. Kelly McQuestion finished right behind her again in 6th place with 265.4 points. The host team's Maddie Mazzano took the gold in the event with 391.45 points.
On Friday, December 17th, the men's diving team also traveled to Carnegie Mellon University for the CMU Invitational. On day one, Chad Shire took the bronze on the 3-meter board with 377.95 points. Christian Termine finished 8th in the event with 252.55 points. The winner of the event was Gabe Bamforth from the host team with 496.85 points.
On day 2 of the CMU Invitational, it was the men's team's turn to tackle the 1-meter dive. Chad Shire moved up to 2nd place with 421.45 points. Christian Termine placed 8th in that event as well with 243.9 points. Carnegie Mellon's Gabe Banforth was the top performer once again with 473.55 points.
The Division II men's ice hockey team took on Penn State in Lion Country, where they fell short with a 4-1 loss. The Profs were outshot by Penn State in this matchup 53-22. The lone goal for the Profs came from Frank Steffi halfway through the 3rd period, assisted by Christopher McDermott and Frank Ferrante. The Nittany Lions came out on fire, scoring less than 4 minutes into the start of the game off of a power play goal from Frederick Monkman. The Profs had 4 power plays but were unable to get the puck in the back of the net on the man advantages. Rowan takes on Rider University this Saturday, and the puck drop is at 8:15 p.m. And Derek, this Division II team, although sitting at 6-7 on the season, still ranked 5th in the region rankings. There wasn't a ranking this week, but they had one right before the Thanksgiving Day break, so they're pretty thankful to be below 500, but also being in the 5th spot is a pretty good spot to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. They have a very tough schedule, so despite that loss to Penn State, they're still playing very well based off that schedule this season.
Rider is at the tail end of that top 10. It's going to be a big, big matchup this week.
Well, that's all for this episode of All Access. For Eric Conklin, Isla Gideon, Chris Devine, Cody Decker, and the entire All Access team, I'm Derek Hill. We'll see you next time.